Hi everyone, this is Sharon. Today I am here with this month's design team project for Christy at Everlasting Journals. And this month it is all about ephemera. I've been a busy girl this week making ephemera for a series of journals that I'm making showcasing Christy's digitals, and you will see those journals come out in the next couple of months. So I just thought I'd show you a little bit what I've been working on, what I've been making, and then I thought we could craft together and make one of these in today's video. So I'm just going to briefly describe each of the pieces that I made. Here's one where I took a lot of these, I took some of her collage sheets and some of the kits that she has and just took pieces of those and created some ephemera pieces. So this is a collage sheet. I took a corner of that and added some embellishment, folded it up to create a pocket on the back side, lined it with some coffee dyed paper, and then I just inserted this vintage button card and added some of Christy's buttons on there. She's got these buttons in her set 11, and I use them quite a bit because I like the way they look. This piece, she's got a kit with these documents. It's a document on one side and some really nice patterns on the other. So I sized this one down a bit to create this little booklet. I tied it up with string, and then on the inside, I lined it with some old Italian paper, and then I took some reused tissue paper that came in a shoebox and just stamped the edge of that with a stamp. And then I inserted some ledger paper and some coffee dyed paper that can be used for writing. And I thought with the string you can always tuck and add more pieces of paper and pages in there. So that's that piece. For this one, again, I took one of Christy's collage sheets, journal pages, and layered that with some cheesecloth onto this back base. Added a little bit of lace on the top, and I did stitch around the image on the front. And then the back side was just a miscellaneous offcut I had that was fairly plain, so you can still use it for writing. I added a label and wrapped that lace around the back side. Oh, and I have these little buttons hanging on there with the string. This one was rather simple. Again, I took one of her collage sheets. I added a little washi on the top, rounded the corners on the bottom, backed it with this embossed paper that I did ink up a little bit. This tag, I used an old masterboard that I made eons ago, and I was just using some scraps of some of Christy's pages again. I think this came from the same page as one of the other ones that I did. I just fussy cut around this urn and added that to the tag, and I just think it looks really nice on there. And then the back side, I added some sewing tissue paper, and by putting that over this book page, it allows you to write over the top and still be able to see. And then this is from one of Christy's washi kits. Oh, on the top, I've got this piece of linen and this brass brad on there as well. This piece is kind of a writing spot, a journal card, I guess, with layers. I took, again, a scrap of paper that I had that was somewhat plain, so you could use it for writing on the back. I punched the edge of that and wrapped it around to the front. And then I just stapled a little piece of string in the top. And then this is one of Christy's collage sheets that I waxed. And then I layered that with this French document. And then these two sheets would provide some writing room. Here is another one of those documents in that same kit with the documents that I showed earlier. So it has the pattern on one side and this document on the other. So I would use this as the back for writing. And I just took it and sandwiched this cut piece of paper inside. That I just used a paper punch for that. And then on this side, I embellished a little bit with some pieces of cotton stitching on there. Here, this was a very simple tag that came together rather quickly. Again, took one of our collage sheets, added a label, I rounded the top, and then just added some scrappy fabric for my tie, and again, a rather plain back. Here, again, I went to one of my masterboard pieces and just fussy cut this ballerina out on the front from one of her collage sheets again and put that over the top. I just like the way that looks. I added this ribbon at the top. And then I did stamp this lady on the back. Here I created a little prayer card holder. So get my hemp string open here. So I tied the string around a couple of times. This is an old Dennison picture hanger. I've got a box of those and I thought that would make a nice little clasp on there. And then on the back, I just added this label on the side. And then here I just took a stamp and stamped that on, stitched that around. And then it's got this little flap and then it opens in the center. And then I've got a couple of prayer cards that I made. I lined it with some German book page. And then this pattern is from, I think, one of Christie's tapestry or background pages. I'll have to look that up. And then these last three items are really fun. They're little like wallet type ephemera holders. So what I'm going to do today, I thought it would be fun to make this one on camera and use these as kind of my prototypes, and we can talk through those a little bit later. So if you'd like to make one, come and join me. Okay, before we get started, let's revisit a couple of the other wallet ephemera holders that I made. There's this one, which is the one we're going to be making today, and then that has the strap that comes around this way. And then this is another one I made with a little bit of a variation where the strap comes down the top. I'll set this one aside and we can visit that one at the end of the video. So this is the one I want to make today. It's got a couple of straps that come around from the back side, so they're glued there. They come around to the front. It's got a couple of these little buckle things on here that slide. So if you slide them to the side, it's got these two tabs that come out. Then you open it up and it's got a couple of pockets on the inside, one here and one here. Now these pockets I made from some handmade paper that I embossed. And the ones we're making today, I'm just going to use some offcuts of some digitals that I printed off. So we will keep this close at hand for reference so we can look back on it. I think the first thing I'll do is give you all the measurements and let you know what papers I used for the holders. So Christie has a ton of beautiful, beautiful kits, and I always have a hard time figuring out which ones I want to use, but I picked some of my favorites today. So if we look at this one, that I made from this tapestry image, and this is from set 15. And I just used this half of that one. And then the other one that I already made, this one, is just an extra digital that I had, a portion of a collage sheet that I took from set 32. And then the one we're making today, I'm using this one. This is also from set 15, and I'm just going to use this half of it. And then if we look at these tab pieces, on this one I just use scraps, and that's a perfect use of your scraps, is to dig in and find some old pieces that might be the right size. And same way with these little ones, I just use some a digital that's like a French script. And then here I embellished with the scrap that I had too of this little lace piece. The buttons on the back, those are from Christie's set 11. It's a set with photos in it, but she's got some buttons in there. And so I just used those to embellish that. So for our one today, I am using portions of this collage sheet from set 32 for the straps. So I'm going to, here's our base, and then I made a couple of pieces of these straps for this that I took from this sheet. And then for my two pockets, I took this portion of this collage sheet and I cut two of those for my inside pockets. And I'm just going to run through the dimensions of everything so we have that if you're interested in knowing exactly the size that I'm making. So for this sheet, the dimensions are 5 1/4 across by 7 1/2 long. And that will give us something that's about 5 1/4 by 3 1/4 high. And then for my two straps that come across, I've got two pieces, and these are 6 inches long by 1 7/8 inches wide. They could be a little bit shorter than 6 if you don't have, see, these are crossing over each other by quite a bit. You know, those could be a little bit shorter and it would be fine. And then let's see, my pockets. Your pockets you will want to make as wide as your little wallet. So these, I think they're, let's see, they're about 5 3/8. And I know this was only 5 1/4, but I'm going to line it with this book page, which makes it a little bit wider. And that's why I cut these a little bit longer. And then they're 1 3/8 inch wide. But again, you can make your pockets as deep as you like, whatever suits your needs. So I've got two of those. And then I have this offcut piece of script that I'm going to use and fold up for these little sliding buckle things. And that I made 1 3/8 inch wide. And I've just got an extra long piece and I'll cut it off where I need to cut it off. Okay, so let's move everything out of the way. So my first step will be to line this with my book page. And I keep putting it upside down because that's to remind myself that I have to put it upside down. You do not have to line it with any kind of paper, but you can. If you double side this and print on both sides, you can totally skip this step and move on to the next step. But I kind of like to line things with old book page or old paper. Just gives it a little bit nicer texture and feel for my vintage style. And the thing I mentioned about adhering this upside down. So I'm going to be folding this like this. And this is going, what I will consider my front with my buckle on it. So this is my front, but when I open it, I want the top of the book page to be here. So my top has to be there, opposite the top of my outside. So I will glue the back side of this paper and glue this onto it. I love using these tropical images in the middle of winter when I'm gluing. Kind of brightens my day a little bit. So I'm just going to take a glue stick and cover this entire piece with glue. Okay, now I know I want this to be the outside, and I've got to flip this around. And I'm just going to kind of center this. This book page is almost the right size for what I need. I'm going to move this top so it just borders that. I like to leave that border on there. I'll have a little bit excess on this side that I'm going to tear off after I'm done. But I think that looks good. So you don't have to leave that extra hang over the side, but I did on both of these. I just like the way that looks, and the more I work with it, the edges will get tattered and torn and ripped up a little bit, and I just kind of like that look. But you could certainly cut it off right to the edge of your paper as well. Okay, I'm going to set this aside and let that dry a little bit and move on to our next step. Okay, while our base is drying, I thought we could work on the straps. So I'm going to grab these two. And as I mentioned, it's 1 7/8 inches wide, and I've got it double width because I'm just going to fold this over in half to give it a little bit more strength. Now you could I printed all my papers on 24-pound paper. You could certainly print on cardstock or something heavier, and then you probably wouldn't have to double this up. But a lot of times when I'm using scraps, it's just, you know, maybe 20 or 24-pound paper. So it might need a little bit reinforcement. So these I had 1 7/8 folded in half, which makes my straps a little bit less than 1 inch wide. Now that's a personal preference again. You could make your straps narrower, you can make them wider, you could even do a double strap, do 2 of them, whatever, you know, play around and whatever you think is pleasing to you. So I've got that folded in half, and now I'm going to just get my glue stick and glue that. And then I'll do my second one. I'm being careful to fold it exactly so there isn't any white showing, but if it isn't, you could cut it off or ink it up if you wanted to, just to camouflage the edge a little bit. Okay, so we have our 2 straps. Now what I did on mine, on these corners, I rounded them a little bit there, and then on this side as well. Oops, I lost my straps. So you don't have to round them. You could keep them square, you could cut them off. I have this corner rounder, and for the back side, I use the small one. There's a small, medium, and large, and then for the front, I used my medium rounder. So I'm going to do that with these 2 straps as well. So I don't think it matters what my back is. Sometimes I might want to just look to see what, do I want these darker ones or do I want these kind of lighter ones back there? I think I'll do it like that. So I'm going to do the small rounding on each of these. And then on this side, I'm going to use my medium. Okay, so I am seeing a little bit of white along these edges with my eye. So I'm going to grab my ink, and I'm just going to do a little bit of inking on there, just to kind of, maybe give it a little bit more of a worn look, and then also cover up a little bit of that white. And because one edge is folded and one edge is raw, just inking all the way around kind of evens all that out, so you can't really tell. And this step is certainly optional. Okay, so we have our 2 straps completed. I am going to set those aside, and we can go back to our base and start working with that. So just uncurl that a little bit. I think it's mostly dry, so we can work with this. I think we'll do our pockets next. So I'm going to fold this in half. And then this is the front. This is our inside. So now if we take our 2 pockets, and I'm going to place those, this way. That and that way. somewhere like that, I think. And what I thought I would do is just notch out the top of these. So let's get I've got this little envelope tool, and it's got a nice little notch in the top. It's an envelope punch board by We Are Memory Keepers. I use this notch a lot, but if you don't have this, you can notch out by using a circle punch and just circling it out a little bit, or cutting it out by hand, or not at all. And I just kind of eyeball the middle of that. Okay, so we've got our 2 pockets with notches in. And so I'm just going to glue those in. And for this, because I just want a real narrow band of glue, I'm going to use some art glitter glue that I have in this small bottle. So I'm just going to run a bead of glue back here. I don't remember if I mentioned this earlier or not, but these 2 pockets I lined with some book page because I just didn't feel like they were thick enough for pockets. Okay, I'm gonna just put it a little bit up from the bottom so it's not too close to the crease. It'll still give me some room to tuck things in. Getting them straight is the hardest part. Okay, and then this one. All right, and then this one I'm going to put toward the bottom, maybe about a 1/2 inch up from the edge. And this one I maybe had about 3/8 inches up from the fold. Okay, so we've got our 2 pockets inside. Now the next step is to attach our straps to the outside cover. Okay, so we've got our 2 straps. And how I did this was I kind of placed these on the back. Oh, one thing I forgot to do, remember I had this extra length of book page that came over the edge. I'm just going to, it's kind of brittle paper, so I'm just going to get rid of that extra. Okay. All right, so now we've got a nice rough little edge there. So let's take our strap, kind of place it. Let's see, I think I want this one on the side. Now you get to see all my fiddling. Okay, I think I like it there, so I'm just going to bend that over, and then it'll come across the front like that. And then I'm going to take this one and bend it in the same place as the other one, so they're both even. So I'm just kind of matching it up to the other one. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to put this one on here and this one on here. And then I'm going to kind of eyeball this on the front to see if it's situated where I like it. I think that's good. It's about 1 inch from the top of my little wallet. Okay, so I'm going to take this one side first, kind of hold it in place, flip that open, and then put my glue on the back. You're going to want to use a fairly strong glue because this will get a lot of wear and tear and pulling and tugging, so I'm using my art glitter glue to glue this in place. Just want to make sure my tab is kind of on there straight. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then this one is easier if you come to the front and kind of line these straps up where you want them. Okay. Okay, straps are on. That looks pretty good. I think we might as well put our buttons on the back while we're working on these. So here are the 2 buttons that I cut out from Christie's set 11, and I'm just going to put those right there. I like the way that looks. You could use real buttons on these too if you wanted to. That would be a cute look. These are going into some future journals that I'm making, so I kind of want to keep them as flat as possible. But if you were using these for Happy Mail or just some ephemera holders, you could put whatever you wanted on the outside. Okay, so that's how our back looks. Now, let's just set that aside, and I'm going to grab my little piece here. And that is going to make these little, I'm calling them buckles, but these little straps that go on here. I'm going to slide these back on. I did not glue these in place. You certainly could. I kind of like the idea of having them loose and being able to slide them around wherever I wanted to. But if you didn't want to take the risk of having them slide off, you could glue them onto the strap. So what I like about this is you can have them close together, you can have them to the side, the other side, keep them apart, whatever pleases your eye the most. So let's make those. My finished width is about 3/8 of an inch. And so what I did was I folded this in half. I wanted to make sure they were nice and thick so they would hold up. So I actually am quadrupling the thickness. So I'm folding it in half and then taking these sides and folding them in as well. And that'll give us our about a 3/8 inch thickness on there. Okay, now I did not glue mine down. You certainly could glue these flaps down. I just really didn't think it was necessary. Okay, so let's bring this back. So what I did to measure these was I just pulled it over the width of my strap and then put in my 2 creases. Then took it off and then just cut this off. Just so there's enough overlap so that you can glue or staple them. Now you could glue them. I did the quick and easy route and I'm using my little tiny attacher and I'm just going to go in there and staple these. The other ones seem to go easier. Okay, so I want to make sure I got this. I guess as long as the creases are where they are, that's fine. So I'm just going to put a couple of staples in there. Okay. And I think there's a little bit excess on there that I can cut off yet. All right, so let's slide that on. And if you don't exactly get it lined up, you can trim these edges off too. I'm gonna make sure it's not too snug. And my numbers are upside down, so I'm going to turn it this way. Slide that back on, and then we'll make our other one. So what side? Maybe I want this to the outside. Again, I'm going to make my creases and then cut this off. And then get my stapler in there. Try to line it up a little bit better this time. Okay. And once you start sliding them back and forth a little bit, they will loosen up a little bit. Okay, that is it. We've got our buckle on there, our back, and then if you just slide these to the side, you can open your straps, and then inside you've got your 2 pockets, and you can use them for some ephemera, journaling cards, whatever you'd like to tuck in there. So that one, and then we have this one, and then let's just take a closer look at this one because there's so many variations that you can make. This one, I just had the one strap coming over the top. I took this piece of cardstock from an old hanging file folder, cut a little tab that I could slide this strap into, and I stitched that on and glued it on so it was sturdy, and then I just stamped that a little bit with a decorative stamp. On the back side, I added some lace to embellish this one. And then on the inside, I created my pocket a little bit differently. I lined it with the book page again. But here I just took this old digital that I had in my scrap pile, and I stitched it across the center crease here. So it creates a top tuck and a bottom tuck. That worked out well. And in there, I just used it as storage for a couple of little prayer cards that I made. And this whole piece is going to go into a journal that I'm making. So you can really play around with variations. I thought about the fact that you could also have 2 straps coming over the top. You could also use, instead of this clasp or this one, I thought you could also, instead of this tab going across, just use some magnets and then have a magnetic tab. That would work too. I might make one of those just to try it out. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial and that you give it a try and maybe make some of your own. Thanks for coming along with me today. I really appreciate it. And until next time, bye-bye.